Captain Jake Morrison sat in the command chair of the USS Wanderer, his eyes fixed on the stars scattered across the main screen. For a moment, the silence on the bridge felt like a cathedral, the kind of silence that came before history changed forever. The ship hummed around him, alive with the quiet anticipation of its crew. They were about to attempt something no human being had ever done, humanity's first faster-than-light jump. 50 years of dreaming, arguing, building, failing, and trying again, all of it led to this night. At the science station, Dr. Lisa Taylor's hands moved with the precision of someone who had lived with a single idea for a decade. She was the architect of the quantum drive, the experimental heart of the Wanderer. The theory was simple enough to put into equations but terrifying in its consequences: bend the fabric of space itself, wrap it around the ship, and push them to Alpha Centauri in hours instead of years. But of course, theory and reality rarely shook hands easily. "All systems ready, Captain," said Bill Carter, the chief engineer, a man more comfortable with metal and tools than equations. The math didn't make sense to him, but the parts fit together, and he trusted Lisa's brilliance. Navigator Amy Johnson triple-checked her star charts. She had plotted their course with obsessive care, calculating the journey to Alpha Centauri, a trip that should take 6 hours instead of 4 long years. "Communications ready, sir," Steve Parker added from his console, fingers hovering over a system that might be the first human device to transmit our voice into alien ears. He secretly hoped they'd find someone listening. In the corner, Dr. Kevin Brooks had his biological scanners primed. He didn't care about engines or navigation, his heart was set on discovering the first alien microbe, the first hint that humanity was not alone. Meanwhile, Security Chief Maria Gonzalez was at her post, calm and professional. She knew the official mission was exploration, but she checked her weapons anyway. Whether they faced broken systems or hostile unknowns, her job was to keep everyone alive. And finally, in the med bay, Dr. Ellen Price stood ready. Nobody truly knew what bending reality might do to the human body. She had prepared for broken bones, radiation burns, or worse, but the truth was, she was stepping into the dark like the rest of them. Captain Morrison looked around at his crew. 8 people, each carrying not just their own hopes but the hopes of an entire planet. He smiled faintly. "Well, team, let's go see what's out there. Dr. Taylor, you may begin the jump sequence." Lisa took a deep breath and started the drive. Energy built around the ship like a storm made of invisible tides. On the screen, the stars bent and stretched, pulled into lines of light. Reality itself began to ripple. "Drive at 50%, Lisa said, eyes scanning the numbers. "Stable so far." The ship shuddered as if some great hand had nudged it. Captain Morrison gripped his chair. Calm was his responsibility, even as his stomach nodded with unease. 70%. Distortion field holding. The hum of the engines rose. The bridge lights flickered. 90%. Jump field stable. Morrison's voice was steady. "Take us to the stars, Dr. Taylor." Lisa pushed the final control. Reality fractured. The Wanderer leapt forward into a hole in space, a gap that sealed behind them like water closing over a stone. For a heartbeat, or an eternity, they were nowhere. Everywhere. A moment stretched beyond comprehension. Then the universe snapped back into place. "Jump complete," Lisa said, relief in her voice. But then her face fell as she read her instruments. "Captain, these star patterns don't match Alpha Centauri." Amy's hands flew over her navigation screens. Her calculations spun back at her in impossible contradictions. "Sir," she said quietly, "we didn't just miss Alpha Centauri. We missed by about 50,000 light-years." The bridge fell silent. Before anyone could process the meaning of that. Before fear or wonder could take root, Steve's console erupted with warnings. "Captain. I'm picking up massive energy signatures all around us." On screen, Morrison ordered. The stars vanished, replaced by a vision that froze the crew in awe. Vast alien ships, some the size of cities, filled the void. Their weapons burned across space like lightning made of fire and fury. Smaller craft swarmed in coordinated formations, darting between titans. Explosions lit the darkness as fleets clashed in a war humanity could barely comprehend. "Well," Morrison said dryly, "this is interesting." Maria scanned her tactical systems. "They're not firing at us, sir. They don't even seem to notice we're here." Dr. Taylor, already regaining her composure, ran scans. "Captain, their technology is astonishing. Controlled fusion, antimatter containment, power outputs that dwarf our entire planet. They're thousands of years ahead of us." Kevin Brooks whispered, almost reverently. "I'm picking up multiple life signs. Not just one species. These ships are crewed by a coalition, or an empire." On the screen, a vessel loomed. It was over 50 miles long, armored with alien alloys, covered in markings of authority. A ship built not just for war, but for empire. Then Steve spoke, his voice sharp. "Captain. I think one of them is trying to talk to us." The screen shifted. A reptilian face appeared, golden eyes, scales that rippled with shifting colors. The uniform it wore gleamed with symbols of command. When it spoke, their translator struggled, then resolved. "Unknown vessel. You have entered a restricted combat zone. Identify yourselves immediately, or be destroyed." The bridge held its breath. Captain Morrison rose from his chair, straightened his uniform, and stepped toward the screen. His voice carried no fear, only calm curiosity. "Hello there," he said. "I'm Captain Jake Morrison of the USS Wanderer, from Earth. We seem to have gotten a little lost. First trip out, you know how it is. We're not looking for trouble. Just trying to find our way home. Oh, and by the way, those are some beautiful ships you've got there. Incredible engineering." The alien admiral stared at him for several seconds, utterly unprepared for such a response. For centuries, alien empires had faced fear, rage, or desperation at first contact. Never had a species greeted them like neighbors who had taken a wrong turn. Finally, the admiral spoke. "Bring their ship aboard. I want to meet these strange aliens in person." The docking process was unlike anything the crew had ever imagined. The alien fleet moved with terrifying precision. Towering vessels, each one capable of erasing Earth in seconds, shifted aside to let the Wanderer pass. A tractor beam wrapped around a small human ship, pulling it gently yet firmly toward a colossal flagship that dwarfed mountains. Inside the bridge, every heartbeat sounded like a drum. "Stay calm," Captain Morrison said, his voice even. He didn't have to add the unspoken truth, they were entirely at the mercy of beings who could swat them like insects. Amy Johnson stared at the flagship on her screen. "That thing must be 50 kilometers long. I can't even process it." Bill Carter muttered, "I've seen aircraft carriers that seemed like floating cities. This thing is a continent." Maria Gonzalez stood behind the captain's chair, her hand resting near her weapon out of instinct. She knew it wouldn't matter, but soldiers cling to what little certainty they have. As the Wanderer was swallowed by the alien docking bay, the crew braced themselves. The view outside shifted to a cavern of metal and light. Hundreds of alien vessels, fighters, shuttles, drones, moved in perfect formation. Strange banners hung from the walls, symbols of a power older than Earth's recorded history. When the airlock hissed open, the crew felt as though they were stepping off the edge of the known universe. Waiting for them were rows of reptilian soldiers, taller than humans, armored in gleaming alloys, holding weapons that radiated menace. Their golden eyes tracked every movement with cold precision. And then he appeared. The Admiral from the screen. His presence filled the room like gravity itself. His scales shifted in subtle waves of color, an expression, perhaps, of authority. His uniform shimmered with rank markings. Captain Morrison took a step forward. He forced a smile, though his heart hammered. "Admiral, thank you for receiving us. We appreciate the hospitality." The alien studied him in silence, then spoke. The translator crackled before delivering the words in a deep, resonant voice. "You are not of any known species within the Sarah Empire. Your technology is primitive. Yet you have crossed 50,000 light-years by unknown means. Explain." Lisa Taylor stepped forward, unable to hide her excitement. We used a prototype quantum drive. It folds space, bypassing conventional limits. It shouldn't have worked this far. Honestly, we don't understand why we ended up here." The Admiral's eyes narrowed. "You claim ignorance. That may be true. But ignorance does not excuse trespass." Maria shifted her stance subtly, ready to react to even the smallest threat. Ellen Price whispered under her breath, "We're all going to die in the first 5 minutes of humanity's first contact." But Morrison raised his hand gently to steady his crew. His tone was calm, measured, and, most importantly, human. "Admiral, we are explorers. Nothing more. We had no intention of intruding on your empire. Frankly, we didn't even know it existed. We're infants in this galaxy. But perhaps, infants worth your attention." The Admiral's scales rippled again. Was that amusement? Contempt? It was impossible to tell. "Very well," the alien said. "You will meet the council." The crew was escorted through monumental corridors, cathedrals of alien engineering. The walls glowed faintly with flowing energy, alive with symbols that pulsed like veins. Kevin Brooks whispered as they walked. "Do you realize what this means? We're not just seeing alien life, we're seeing alien civilization, alien history, alien politics." His voice shook with awe. "This is everything humanity has dreamed of." Steve Parker muttered back, "Or everything we've feared." At last, they entered a vast chamber. The council hall was circular, its ceiling lost in shadow. Around them, tiered seats rose into the darkness, filled with beings of many shapes and forms. Some resembled reptiles like the Admiral. Others had crystalline skin, insectoid bodies, or forms too strange to categorize. It was a parliament of species, united under one banner, the Sarah Empire. A low murmur spread through the hall as the humans were led to the center platform. Thousands of alien eyes, curious, hostile, indifferent, studied the newcomers. For the first time in its history, humanity was on display before the galaxy. An elder figure rose, robes flowing with embedded light. The translator rendered her voice as both gentle and commanding. "You stand before the council of the Sarah Empire. We are the custodians of order in this region of the galaxy. Your arrival is unexpected." Captain Morrison inclined his head. "We come in peace. Our species has only just taken its first steps beyond its homeworld. We seek knowledge, friendship, and understanding. Nothing more." The council chamber erupted in murmurs. Some voices sounded intrigued. Others sounded mocking. One alien representative, a massive insectoid with blades for arms, spoke sharply. "Primitive species stumble into our war zone, armed with technology they cannot comprehend, and they ask for friendship. This is dangerous. They should be destroyed." Another voice countered, melodic and crystalline, "No. They are unique. To travel so far, by accident, is either impossible, or destiny." The debate raged around them, a storm of alien languages filtered through the translator into overlapping waves of meaning. The Admiral finally raised his hand. Silence fell instantly. "The question is simple," he said. "Does this species deserve a place among us, or annihilation for its trespass?" The words echoed in the chamber. For the humans, every breath became heavy. Lisa glanced at Morrison, her eyes wide. "This isn't just about us. This is about Earth. He nodded. He understood. Their words now might decide the fate of humanity itself. Taking a slow breath, Captain Morrison stepped forward. "I will not insult you by pretending we are your equals," he began. "We are children, compared to your civilizations. But children grow. Children learn. And sometimes, children surprise their elders. Humanity is not here to threaten you. We are here to learn. To contribute. To stand among the stars, not as conquerors, but as neighbors. Judge us not by what we are now, but by what we can become." For a long, unbearable moment, silence reigned. Then the elder figure spoke again. "The council will deliberate. Until then, you are guests of the Empire. Do not mistake this for freedom. You will be watched." With that, the session ended. As they were escorted out, Ellen Price whispered the fear in everyone's heart: "We've just placed Earth's survival on the mercy of beings who don't even see us as equals." Maria's eyes narrowed. "Then we'd better make damn sure they don't forget us." That night, as the humans were confined to a chamber aboard the flagship, Captain Morrison stared out a window at the endless stars. He thought of Earth, the blue oceans, the mountains, the billions of people who had no idea how fragile their future had just become. He whispered, almost to himself. "We wanted the stars, and now we've found them. The question is, will the stars want us?" The crew of the Wanderer had expected interrogation, suspicion, even imprisonment. What they had not expected was silence. For 3 days, they were confined within a chamber aboard the flagship, watched constantly by alien guards. Their food was strange but edible, a gesture of hospitality mixed with warning. The council had withdrawn to deliberate, and the humans could do nothing but wait. Ellen Price paced restlessly. "I can't stand this. We're like animals in a zoo." Maria Gonzalez replied, her soldiers' calm masking the same frustration. "Better a zoo than a grave." Kevin Brooks sat with his datapad, obsessively documenting every alien word, every gesture, every symbol he'd seen. "You don't get it. Even if they kill us, this is history. Humanity's first contact. The record matters." Lisa Taylor sat near the viewport, her gaze fixed on the stars. Her voice was softer, thoughtful. "Do you ever wonder if they're stalling for another reason? Like maybe we're not the strangest thing they've seen this week." That thought hung in the air like static. On the 4th day, the Admiral returned. His presence, as always, was overwhelming, authority woven into every motion of his scaled body. "The Council has reached a decision," he announced. The crew rose to their feet, hearts pounding. "You will not be destroyed." Exhales of relief filled the chamber. Instead, the Admiral continued, "You will be studied. Watched. Measured. Humanity will be placed under observation. If you prove dangerous, the consequences will be final." Bill Carter muttered, "Guess that's the closest thing to a welcome we're gonna get." But before Morrison could reply, another voice echoed through the chamber. A shimmering figure materialized in the air, a hologram projected by alien technology. But this was not the Admiral's doing. The guards shifted uneasily. The Admiral himself took a step back, scales flickering with alarm. The figure was tall, humanoid in outline, but its features were shifting, incomplete, like a sculpture half-formed. Its voice was layered, resonant, and wrong. "You play at politics while the shadow returns," it said. "Empires squabble, species bicker, but the architects awaken." The chamber froze. Captain Morrison glanced at his crew. "The architects?" The Admiral's voice, usually iron, now carried a trace of fear. "This message is not for you, human. It is for us. Leave it." But the hologram ignored him. Its form shimmered, fragments of alien languages bleeding into the translator until words became thunder. "We built the lattice of stars. We shaped the paths of empires. You were children when we departed. Now, you have forgotten the rules. The harvest begins anew. The projection collapsed into silence. For a moment, no one breathed. Then chaos erupted. Guards shouted. Alien devices scanned the room frantically. The Admiral barked orders in a guttural tongue. Lisa whispered, trembling, "That wasn't meant for us, but we heard it." Kevin Brooks's hands shook as he scribbled notes. The architects, builders of civilizations. Or destroyers. Later, confined once more, the humans tried to make sense of what they had witnessed. Bill slammed his fist against the wall. Great. So not only are we ants in their empire, but apparently there are bigger boots out there waiting to crush us. Ellen replied, bitterly, maybe that's why they're so afraid of us. Not because of what we are, but because of what's coming. Morrison sat in silence. He remembered the Admiral's reaction, not anger, but fear. The Sarah Empire, so vast, so ancient, terrified. If the architects are real, he said quietly, then humanity didn't stumble into the galaxy by accident. We stumbled into the storm. The next day, the crew was summoned again. This time, the council chamber was subdued. The air carried tension, as if the hologram's words still clung to the walls. The elder figure addressed them. You humans, you were not meant to hear the message. It was a transmission buried in the deep lattice, triggered only once every 500,000 years. The architects are a legend. An ancient terror. Most here do not believe they still exist. Kevin Brooks spoke up. But you believe. The elder's eyes glimmered faintly. Belief is irrelevant. Fear is what endures. The insectoid delegate hissed. Enough. This distraction changes nothing. The primitives must be contained. But another voice, crystalline and calm, countered, or perhaps, the timing means everything. They appear now, when the message awakens. Chance. Or design. The chamber erupted again into argument. Maria muttered under her breath, they're more scared of this architect thing than of us. Morrison realized the truth. Humanity had walked into a galaxy already trembling. A galaxy afraid of something older, something hidden. And maybe, just maybe, humanity was part of that fear. That night, Morrison stood again at the viewport. The stars seemed colder now, distant points against the enormity of the threat hinted at by the hologram. Lisa joined him quietly. You ever think, she asked, that maybe we weren't supposed to find the stars yet? That maybe the universe kept us isolated for a reason? Morrison considered her words. Or maybe, he said slowly, the universe was waiting for us. Because when the architects return, maybe it won't be empires like the Sarah who matter. Maybe it'll be something new. Something unexpected. Like us. Lisa smiled faintly, though fear lingered in her eyes. That's a very human way of looking at it. Exactly, Morrison said. And maybe that's our strength. Far beyond the Sarah Empire, in the cold void between galaxies, something stirred. A structure older than stars shifted in silence. Lights that had been dark for eons flickered awake. The architects were not a myth. They were coming. And humanity, fragile, untested, underestimated, had just been written into their story.